So,
So I am
hi,
got a
Liz.
little Tuesday tea mugs.
Oh,
That
yes,
we
I'm about
have
to
at
make
the
some
all the
tea for
hotel here.
mine.
Yes,
I'm going
I
to
have
mute you
some
while I get
strawberry
some water.
lemonade. Let us know what you're drinking. Let us know if you on that tea today, or if you on that bourbon, or what else you got going on. what kind of wellness of spirits and hydration you need for today? What's been going on with you? So I have this. When before I left Asheville, I found the tea merchant shop. She was a black
About to
owned
happen.
French. She's a franchise, but it's a black owned shop, and it was this lemon strawberry lemonade tea
Ooh.
blend that I love, and I didn't buy enough of it before I moved, so I couldn't find it. And then I found something similar through a tea bag brand in Publix. So I'm like so happy I got my lemon strawberry tea.
Listen, I'm missing Publix. Like, we don't have that here in Greensboro,
I
but we do in
love
Charleston.
I love Publix because, of course, anywhere where I can find good natural whole foods, good natural produce sections, all the vegan brands, plant-based things. Anytime I can
Yep.
find products like that, I'm happy. So
Yeah.
Publix is where it's at. I go to Aldi for my little snacks, for all my
Oh,
vegan
yeah.
and Simply Truth snacks, and then I'll hit up Publix because they
Ooh,
got
ooh,
the
ooh.
good stuff.
Well, I guess, hi, everybody. Hi, Luz. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Luz.
Let us know if
Um,
you got your tea.
While we're waiting, I wanted to talk a little bit about what you had mentioned in our group chat was Chiron, the wounded healer, because that's in retrograde now. It's
Yes.
in Gatorade with five
Okay.
other planets. It is in Gatorade.
It's getting this electrolytes real quick.
Lord, everybody, all six planets need it.
I'm so glad you're talking about that. Yes, talk more. Talk more.
So yeah, six planets right now currently. Let me watch this oil here. Are in retrograde, and this is like a super unique time. It's got a lot to do with like your personal transformation, which is what we're all about here anyway, right? Like I feel like most people who are tapping in are on that journey along with us. And because Joy brought it up, Chiron is known as the wounded healer. This was really cool because in like Chiron was a really small planet that was discovered in the 70s. And it's also really cool to me because it actually orbits between Saturn and Uranus. So it's like got its own little orbit between those two. And those two planets are also in retrograde. So this whole time, right. And I'll break this down too for you. So Jupiter is about like expansion, right?
Right.
Saturn would be your karma, like the dharma that you walked in the last life is the karma that you're bringing in this life. It's neither good nor bad, it's just your walk, but Saturn represents that. Uranus though is also about like your freedom or like you defying any kind of tradition. So if you think about that, Chiron, your wounded healer, is going in between your karma and defying tradition. It's just like, remember that, what was that game, like pong or ping
Oh
or
yeah,
whatever,
ping
like
pong. Yes. Or pinball
so
machine.
yeah, it's like got me about yay. It's really, I like to think of it more in like positive terms of like idealism, but on the like flip side of that, it could be seen as like confusion or illusions. So that's in retrograde. Pluto's in retrograde. We know that, great dwarf planet. So that's about renewal and rebirth. And then Chiron is also in retrograde, and it's bouncing in between Saturn and Uranus. So when you think about that, yay, Lucretia. When you think about that and what Chiron represents too, wounded healer has to deal with a lot of like holistic health, shamanism. So when you're considering these things, if you're considering these things, it's like, where have you been wounded in your life? Or maybe that's the karma or the dharma that you were walking in the past life and like what you're bringing in. And where you can, hey! where you can show yourself a little bit extra compassion during this time. What up?
Mm.
What y'all
Tell me
doing?
about it. Woo. have
Cooking
not
up.
been sleeping. Y'all know I am the spiritual vessel in which, like, when things happen, when planets are in retrograde, when messages need to be, given, I don't rest. Like, it's just download
Exactly.
or it's self-reflection period, which I feel like it's a lot more self-reflection time right now, so that I can
Hmm.
prepare for whatever, like this pivot, this major pivot that I'm about to make,
Yeah.
to be able to position myself to give these messages in a different way. So yeah, so I definitely feel those retrogrades.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's been a challenge for me. Yeah, again, like wired but tired. That's kind of where I am.
Hmm.
I feel it. I know that I haven't been sleeping. I don't really feel it as much, but I know
Hmm.
I just, rest when I need to. Whenever I do feel the need to sleep, I'll go ahead and do that. But yeah, definitely dealing with Dharma has been coming up a lot, in my meditations, in my like my talks with other people. So that's definitely something. Yeah, so this wounded healer,
Right.
this wounded healer is serious. Like, basically I wanted to bring that up because as we are all practitioners, right, and we are going through our own, forever the student, so we're always going through our own practice and our own ways in healing as well. We also have to figure out ways so we can hold space for others while we're going through that. So it takes a
Hmm.
lot of accountability to do that, because we know that if we don't do that, if we are not accountable to our own healing, then we can create more harm. And that is definitely something, especially in the work that we do, especially in these brown and black bodies, that we are, really working against doing. So yes, check in, Sister Lucretia. You look such like a baby doll today. I just keep looking at you. So anime, darling.
I know. I was like, I have many personalities, so they all come out all the time.
I love it. That's why
I
you're so
know.
fun.
Ah, it's so crazy. I had to sign my contract today.
Yeah.
Woo!
Congratulations.
Y'all throw up them hearts for Lucretia. Big things popping.
Yeah. So I had to do ceremony at the river while signing it, and had a little mini bottle of champagne. So I've already had my libations for the evening.
Yay.
I'm gonna go out to dinner and celebrate. And it's exciting. Just scanning it back to the West Coast so we can get that check.
Yay.
I'm so happy for you.
Oh, I'm so
So
glad you all have
Congratulations.
been there through the whole thing, and I so appreciate you as a tribe family here, like really pushing and helping reevaluate all the things. Thank you so much, y'all. Thank you.
Yay.
So healing the wounded healer, Lord, honey, that's a deep subject. It's been part of my mission in my business to like always have healing the healer classes. So that's a huge part of my mission because of how I was affected coming into healing arts. Like, it's something that profoundly changes you because it's your path and your journey of healing. But then it's like taking on other people's things, and like your passion can become a poison very quickly. It's like your things get shoved to the back, get shoved to the side, get shoved over here, get shoved over there. I have a grief ceremony to do for the community, so I don't have one to do for myself. And you realize, and then being vulnerable is hard too, because people look to you for this thing. And so many people on the interwebs and on social media act like these healers that are perfect and everything's easy for them. If you take their $39.95 or $333 class, you will manifest this. And I'm like, I'm sorry. People ask me all the time. It's a day-to-day practice, a breath-to-breath practice of choosing yourself and choosing healthy boundaries. And so it's like, it's funny that you're talking about healing the wounded healer. I was just led a circle for the American Herbalist Guild, and a lot of people were using yarrow right now, which the energetics of yarrow is about healing the wounded healer. So we all were sitting in circle and talking about all the ways that we could use yarrow, both medicinally and spiritually in our practice, to help, really facilitate our own personal healing. So it's really important for us all to realize, and also realize how we're always healing. We're always leveling up when we challenge ourselves. So it's like, I think it was Ilana Van Zant says, it's like my recoup time is shorter because when something happens, I just jump into, okay, what ceremony is it? What bath is it? What, call my sister tribe together, make them hold me accountable for these things. So it's like, so many profound things can happen in a year when you really open yourself up to being held accountable, to being vulnerable and being like, I don't have it all together.
Mm-hmm.
And today I don't need you to fix it. I might need you to send me like 4 memes that tell me how awesome I am and a trap song so I can twerk it till I get right, or something.
Truth.
Yes, and that part about taking, like, honoring that time, but also knowing that you only have a limited amount of space, especially when you might be in your busy season, your booked and busy season of your life and your work. And you have to figure out how, okay, I have this amount of time to like get myself together. Who are my people? We talked about that in the previous Tuesday teas, calling on your people, your advisory board, whatever you want to call them, your spirit team, to go ahead and, do ceremony, to hold space, move the energy through your body, through your being, whatever needs to happen so that you can keep being present for the work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
So how is it like when you are in this space? I know I have had challenges, and even recently around like, okay, I'm not in my booked and busy. I'm in my pivot phase, right? So
Yeah.
and also going through this like reflection around my work and saying, I have some more self-work that I need to do. And so taking a break from certain things that I know might impact that, it might compact that even. So how do you take the time to say, okay, I'm actually going to set some stuff aside. I'm going to start to clear my board, clear my schedule off. I'm going to start take some time because clearly this is something that needs to be moved until I get to the next part of my journey.
Yeah. Sometimes I have to treat myself like a client and schedule it in my Google Calendar. I tend to pay attention to things much more. I've been slack about that a lot because it's so crazy when everybody wants a piece of you and there's so many things that are happening. And to take that moment, sometimes, I'm like, I got to schedule it in there and give myself the option I can move it. But it's also like today I was just like all in so many feels and so many things to get done. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to walk around the corner and go to this little spot and I'm going to get a thing of mac and cheese.
Like comfort food time.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm just going to take this little, 16-minute round trip walk, breathe in. I stopped and smelled every flower that I could and like touched every plant that I could and like really dreamed about like the things, like the life, the manifesting things. Like how would I move forward if I didn't have these traumas? How does that person move and negate things? How does she see things? And so I gifted myself like this 45 minutes, really all it was, before I had to get it back and do other things. But I gifted myself that 45 minutes of daydreaming and like calling it in and then trying to figure out the ways that I can live in that feeling all the time. So it wasn't that extravagant. It wasn't candles and spiritual baths and all that. I've been treating myself as the ceremony and as like the altar. So as the ancestor connection. So I've been stepping less into the pomp and circumstance of what it needs to be like. Because how many of us are like, I don't want to clean out the tub for the spiritual bath. That's real. Then you got to boil.
That's my big one. Oh gosh, I'm so lazy when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah. And so today I did a face mask, a hair mask, while I was on the computer. I made a quick spiritual bath scrub with salt and things like that. I've been burning this candle. Hey, it's a road buster candle on my ancestor altar, but not getting into like, I need all the things to relax. I am the thing.
I am the thing.
I am the thing. I am the altar, and how I treat myself in minute to minute. And like being like, no, I don't want to do that. Or, sorry. Mm-hmm. No, not really sorry. I'm starting to get to I don't even say sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. I do not say sorry. Unless
I
I'm
know
really
we know you
apologetic
don't.
about it.
We know you
Joy,
don't.
like same for you. Like if you're navigating in between worlds, especially yeah, doing your own continuously being the student, but also being the student in your work, in your doctoral program, and also, you know, like navigating, okay, when can I hold space? When can I legally hold space for people? But also when can I
Exactly.
energetically hold space for people?
Yeah. Totally. And that's what makes me think about Chiron. If you're interested in your astrology or know anything about your astrology, also check what house it's in, because that's where you're going to see where your talents and like where you can tap into this ancient wisdom of yours. So my Chiron in particular, the house that it's in is really allowing me to like be that teacher student, literally. Like that's how I tap in. Like I'm supposed to share what I know. And so that is where there's like some wiggle room between like, okay, I can't legally put a needle in anybody, but I can put ear seeds in people, and I can teach people about, energetics and acupuncture and things like that, and also hold space for myself and reel it back in when I need to, and take those. I literally, Lucretia, I just did what you did 2 nights ago, because that was when the sixth planet went into retrograde, and I was like, bath time, tub time, scrub time, here we go. And yeah, and taking a nap, even taking a nap today was like
Yeah.
refreshing and rejuvenating, and just like letting people know right up front, like, hey, I don't have capacity for this right now, or I can do this and schedule with you at this time, but here are my limitations to this. Or don't text me at 10 p.m. at night asking for, can I do this, that, the third for you?
That part.
No,
Yeah.
seriously cannot.
Those boundaries.
Hmm.
Yes, for those of you
Hmm.
all that just joined, thank you. Yes, we are Tuesday Tea and Bourbon, and we are all healing practitioners. We get on here, and today we are talking about the wounded healer. We're talking about our own personal practice, and being healers, and also doing our own internal healing work. So while we're holding space for other people, we also are holding ourselves accountable, holding one another accountable, like doing things like this, and also make sure that we're taking time out to heal ourselves and in the movement of everything. We were also talking about the planetary alignments and how we have Chiron, Pluto and Saturn in retrograde.
It's Jupiter,
Jupiter.
Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Chiron.
Yes. Yes. So all the things we're talking about, like, okay, so let's get into like even the deeper details around that. So if we're really dealing with, because Saturn is, that is my measurement right there, right? Because of course, when we're dealing with karma, we always want to check and make sure what is peaking in us, what is showing up in us, that is might be presenting in our work, might be presenting in a client, it might be some counter transference going on. I'm going into my clinical terms, but it might
Right.
be all of those things that happen to where we have to be like, oh, this is something
Right.
that maybe I need to get some support in, because this is coming
Absolutely.
from my cycles of life. I'm seeing myself in this,
Yeah.
and so in order to better hold space for my client, and to be able to be there for my client and help them in their own healing, how can I take a step back and, give my own supports in that? And so Saturn is
I,
really good with really showing you, where those pain points are in your
yo,
cycles.
I think you really hit that, because, I've often noticed, like, being a clinician and being just like in the community of the community, it depends. Like people, Joy, you and I were talking about this a few days ago. Like people are looking for authenticity when they're looking for a healer, and they haven't perhaps realized, or they're just tapping into, oh, I am the altar. They're looking for authenticity, but what they're really asking for is for their authentic selves to shine. Like that is what they're really wanting to kind of like mine out. And I think that what you said was really important, because being a wounded healer, we are all that. We all have that also in our charts. But when you are a physical or energetic practitioner and you're meeting people, you will get triggered. You have to push this ego aside. There will be people that come to you. There will be people that push your buttons. There will be people that need to hear the same kind of thing over and over again. And you might get frustrated. You might get like, like so like energetically tangled. And that's another good energetic boundary of like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Observe, don't absorb. We're on the same journey. You just might be a little further ahead on the journey for you to show them an authentic way that you yourself have dealt with it, but they can't take your full template, right? Especially these days, exactly. They can't take your full template and put that on top of theirs. You know what I mean? Like some people like hot sauce, some people don't. Like, you know, you just gotta, that's the reality of it. And that's what Chiron is. Chiron is literally tapping into your own personal ancient wisdom and education and like spiritual study or own spiritual healing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Jupiter kind of does that too, and that inner guidance and that intuition as well, so that you can move towards that expansion. So if you are
Totally.
stuck in those triggers, I know this is one of the words that are trending right now. That everybody wants to talk about trigger traumas, but really,
I know.
there's a difference between the two, a major difference clinically, but as well as we just get into the basis of wellness. When we are triggered in something, that means something is coming up for us, right? That doesn't mean you necessarily have to be like, oh no, this is toxic, I'm just gonna, not deal with this client, I'm just not gonna deal with this part of whatever. It's really showing you that something that's coming up that's uncomfortable or that's being challenged or that needs to be moved in some way, form, or other. So it's really taking that step back and saying, okay, I'm, like you said, I'm often being triggered in certain things. Let me figure out where this is coming from in my own personal story, in my own personal narrative. Where is this coming from? And how can I move through this so I can better support this client? Because a lot of times, more times than not, like you talk about, let me get Lucretia back on here. Like we talk about our clients show up to us, especially as spiritual practitioners, because we are aligning with those energies that are part of our tribe, right? And so we're going to get clients to mirror a lot of our challenges or a lot of our karmic stuff. So we're going to get that because we are either here to guide us, but we're also to guide them, but we are also sharing this journey. We're also still on the same path in this life. We're all living beings trying to figure it out, no matter how much we know or think we know. And so, recognizing those mirrors that show up and really taking them into account and not just dismissing them or, whatever. Now I know because, again, I'm like you, Joy, in which I have to balance the rounds between clinical practice and being in a more open, holistic practice, in which I have to decide when certain clients show up and present with certain things. I have to say, okay, this is not for me and what I'm doing right now. I have to send this to somebody else that can hold space for this in a different way, because they might have, larger issues in which I cannot deal with in the capacity that I am now holding space for in my work. And that's recognizing that. That's recognizing, okay, I have to do that and do that. And I'm going to say ethically, but what's like a holistic word that we can use? Like, just like authentic, like be real, like be really real.
Real recognize real. Real recognize real.
And
like Spirit said that I cannot see you anymore.
Yeah, I mean, honor, you have to honor that, but of course we want to do it with harmony, and we want to, with as much harmony as we can give, with as much compassion we can give other people, because we do understand that we are dealing with the delicacies of people's inner shadows, inner workings, and so we want to make sure that they are still getting pointed in whatever direction, and sometimes that's not going to be me.
A couple of things that I wanted to tap into was like I said, triggered earlier because like colloquially, like we know that as like the big buzzword, but I try actually to steer away from even words like that, because I feel more activated by them. Like there's something in me that needs to flip the script, that I need to really take my life at the helm. And in terms of what you were saying with Jupiter and expansion, because it's in retrograde, it doesn't mean that we're falling backwards and falling all over our shelves and shit's so, messed up that we can't, grab a hold of it. It's actually, instead, I'm offering to and invite you to think about expansion as like turning inward. So that way, the more that you are turning inward and expanding inwardly, you, as a wounded healer, get to show up even more fully, not only for yourself, but have more compassion for other people
Yes.
and no one to refer out.
Yes. It came up in my memories today. I love how I see that because I can also see the cycles in my life or my work or in the world. And it came up in my memories. I had posted around this time last year. One of my favorite quotes from the Avatar was that
Yeah.
in order for us to, we need to first find inner balance before we go out and we try to balance the world. And so, and that's within reason, right? Because we're not going to be completely healed. We're not going to be completely like, super floaty and angelic and whatever. And, if you want to use the term perfect, but, we are going to be what we are needed in this time, in this body, in this, and for this collective, as well as for our own personal, projects that we have in our own lives. So yes, to balance ourselves, to find that balance within, whatever that is, like we talked about, like Krisha talked about some of the many things that she does throughout her day, just to bring in and centering.
Can we talk about how perfectionism is procrastination in disguise? Like,
oh, that part.
were we talking about that before? Like, it's sort of like that's another thing of like wounded healing. It's like that's I won't say perfectionism for me, but like doctoral, like white doctoral kind of stuff, like asks you to be at this, and I'm just like over it. But I'm doing it. So yeah, for me, like it's procrastination in disguise of like it's got to be this, but I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also because I want to finish, and I've come this far, and especially like there's part and parcel to like being first generation and that feeling important in some way to me, versus like what's it actually say for the talking heads out there. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But like, like it is still this form of self-sabotage if I would allow myself to sit in that seat and think it, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, for me, it's the external validation versus the internal validation. So that's even what I've been dealing with the last few weeks because, like I said, as I have been going back and forth for years in between, being in clinical mental health to being now in holistic and just balancing those two worlds, it's always this I guess this internal dialogue that happens around like, okay, what do I need to present? Do I need to present my letters or do I need to present my authentic whole being? And so trying to right now get to this place of understanding that my validation doesn't have to come from the external, these, what white traditionalists in education or, formal education need to say I need to have, and it needs to just show up for who I am because my experience is my validation. My experience alone is my validation, and then the way that I hold myself accountable and the way that my community holds me accountable is my validation. And so just and that takes a brain switch, right? It takes me doing what I have been doing and kind of coming away so that I can expand, but I have to first like go inward and say, okay, what's been coming up for me and what keeps coming up, and that's something that has kept coming up for me. I've had the whole dismantling around really wanting to break down these titles that I've held because I no longer want to be attached to them, because I want to show up in this work to where I more wholly, more fully, and not and less with the ego based dynamics in which keeps other people in bondage, but also keeps myself very, very much tied to something that I don't want to be tied to, a system that I don't want to be tied to.
I think it's interesting. I've always had the most non-traditional resume anyway, so like I've had to step into this, but I have the other one, and if I need to, I can bring it out and floss. Like there's no problem in that. And like so now it is again that thing of navigating both worlds, and in so many ways with my work, I leverage one to increase money in the other for projects of people who have that money. And so it's like, it's not, I mean, I was the one who showed up every day to get that piece of paper. So that also is a form of validation to your own commitment to yourself. Yes. So I had to like rewire that. And like my big Chiron thing is comparison. I keep pulling that card. Like the bamboo tree doesn't compare itself to the pine tree. Mm-hmm. So it's like, because the other people have, you know, used these things to make themselves seem so much worthy in a different way, doesn't mean that I have done that. And so I have combined both of the worlds, because my traditional whatever training was also a big epiphany for me and a big pivot in my life as far as getting my shit together. Because I had to show up every day. I had to do this. I did want to be perfect, because my perfectionism comes from a childhood trauma of trying to be perfect to fit in. And if I drop the ball, then, you know, I'm going to be kicked out of a family, or somebody's not going to love me more. So that's where my perfections come in. And I've had to like step back in that. And sometimes it is a form of procrastination because I want it right. But I also am like, I want it right for the ancestors because of what I've aligned myself to teach. So I put so many stipulations on myself when I can just step back on the whole entire story. Because I have a lot of my spiritual coaching clients, and some of them have been in, you know, Christianity, and they've been ministers for so long, and they feel like they have to abandon that part to step into their spirituality. And I'm like, no, both can be true. It's
yeah.
Also, it's like, it's an evolution of us all. Like, you talk about being first generation, going to college, and like, you know, I don't want to be a part of this. It's all these things. And it's the fact that I feel like you should celebrate yourself with each time that you stepped up to the gladiator ring and like you went and did that paper. It might not have been perfect, but that's okay. You know, another friend of mine is like that. She's going back to school, and she was in there giving herself a hard time. It was the first day of school. I'm like lighting incense for her and like changing the energy. I was like, you're not trying to graduate summa cum laude or something. I'm like, you're just trying to finish, get done, to help our people in another way that you see fit. Because both things can be true.
Yes, both things can be true. I love that. Like that's definitely, I definitely feel that such a, I'm my worst. Yeah, I mean, we all are. We are our worst. We could be our worst enemies or our best friends.
Oh my God, that's my
I
shit.
think my trauma is around just wanting to be seen in a certain way, and having this narrative in which I'm now not attaching myself to. So I'm not even going to repeat it, but just really wanting to be internally validated through all of my experience and all the work that I've done, and not feel like, yeah, I have to be. I don't, and even like saying like I have to be perfect, because I have a whole different definition around that. Like I totally I understand being perfect when you are being your best self. To me, that's what perfectionism is for me. It's just me being my best self. So that doesn't feel like pressure to me. Like I think real royalty was talking about that, like feeling that those pressure points. Hearing the word perfectionism doesn't feel that way, but hearing professionalism does.
I'm just like, I just want to get my work done that I'm supposed to do in this life. I'm like, it's not about being perfect, but I do want to get my soul contract right. So like I can just keep evolving. So I'm like, anything else doesn't matter. That soul contract is what matters.
Yes.
So that's so interesting.
It's like whatever I have to do to keep up with that soul contract. I mean, there's things I'm just like, no. And I'm like, oh, I should have did it. But I was like, no, not it. It's like each step takes you to a different step, and it's constantly getting out of your own way. I've been talking so much. I tell each one of my clients, I'm like, when you pray for the thing, pray for the power to receive the thing. Pray for the, you know, you got to pray for receptivity. And like, I'm like my own client with this lately. It's like I've received all the things, or so many of the things I prayed for quick. And I'm just like, you know, you get into that self-worth, self-sabotage, and things kind of like go like this. And I'm like, okay, what is this? What is the root of this? Where is it rooted? Where is the thing? What is the next ceremony that I need to do to prove to myself? Because I'm my biggest competitor, and I kind of want to stop that, but also I like that. It's kind of like weird.
Yeah.
You want to be better than who you were yesterday, but
That's
you don't
that
want to
Pisces.
stress yourself out. You don't want
That's
to.
that Pisces. You going in both directions.
Give yourself a mental illness trying to be better than you were yesterday.
No.
Not give yourself a mental illness though.
I know. I've been like, because I had my mornings really good, and something like knocked me off my axis a little bit. Not really, but a little bit. Like something from my past, some old things that, I'm just like, cut it out. But like, and so it got in somewhere, and I had to get to the root of that too. So I'm just like, no, let me explore this where there is some more, spaces. What baby girl is this attached to that we need to have a sit down conversation and, go and figure her out and see what she needs. What part of myself needs to be nourished a little bit deeper instead of where I was like, oh, I got to go do a 10-day silent retreat followed by a sweat lodge. And then I got to go see the shaman at 4:00 in the morning. And like, I'm like, okay. You can't do that. Now it's like, I'm going to walk through the French Quarter and I'm going to have coffee and I'm going to daydream and I'm going to be gentle with myself. I gave myself some time to just heal here without working, and it was really beautiful, but I really gave myself a lot of shit. It's like,
you did. You gave yourself a hard fucking time.
It's like this.
I'm like, will you enjoy it? But that's what we do. Like when we are changing, we're changing places, positions, quickly in our lives, and we forget that a lot of things have to regulate. The reasons, our whys, our whats, are all of those things have to, transcend into where we are now. And so our practices are going to change. Our rest is going to change. Our work is going to change. And so allowing space to regulate and and figure out what that looks like is definitely needed.
I also got called out by a friend, here. They're like, you literally teach about abundance and you literally teach about juiciness and passion and all of this. And now you got all of it and you're questioning it. She's like, And I was like, you know what? Damn it. That mirror that you need from people so often. And it's just like, people are all the time like, how do you do it? And I'm like, it's a day-to-day, breath by breath decision to live deliciously. It's not like I woke up, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have a lover and all these great things. It's like, you can, it's a practice. Pray for receptivity and the power to be able to just feel that self-worth in there.
My favorite prayer, and then Joy, I'm gonna let you, say what you've been like eating in between bites. But
you're making me hungry.
I'm so jealous. I know.
It's Taco Tuesday.
My favorite prayer is to ask to be vibrationally ready to receive what I'm asking for. So to ask to be vibrationally ready to receive what I have been asking for. So Joy, what you eating over here? First of all.
It's a vegan chorizo taco. I totally spoiled myself today. It's one of those self-nurturing things, right? Like my earth element really wants to be like, just like make what you want to make. It doesn't even have to be that completely healthy. It's just, it is what you want to make. Chef's kiss. I like what Lucretia was saying earlier too, because two things, like people who are acknowledging and tapping into the journey of the wounded healer and life is a spiral and not just a linear thing. We oftentimes get so hung up on the ascension part. Oh, I'm reaching all these like higher planes and or whatnot, more higher expansive consciousness, whatever, what have you. I'm more enlightened by this or that, the other. But nobody's talking about rooting. And that's what's going to cause mental illness, like on a spiritual plane. Not saying all of it, not saying, like I'm a mental health expert or anything, but I'm talking about a metaphysical, energetic plane of it. You have to root so that you can have wings in order to be that falcon or that owl and actually see what is actually going on in your life and how it relates and ushers your fields of abundance and also joy. I think it's really important to ask about being energetically aligned with like that receptivity, But also remember that because these planets are in retrograde and we're talking about major transformation until the next year,
Right.
when you're asking for that kind of stuff, be very aware that the things in your life might definitely move out of the way for you to actually receive that.
Mm-hmm.
So it might look like a tarot card tower moment.
Mm-hmm.
And holy shit,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it might be a beautiful thing. It might be like a, I'm not friends with this person anymore and I've known them since high school. Or I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like, people will remove themselves because when you're asking to be energetically aligned and receptive to that, stuff's gotta move. You're asking for it.
Okay,
That was my
it's not a pretty prayer. Okay,
Right. Be ready for
that.
those.
It's definitely not a pretty prayer. It's definitely
It's a
a
strong
tower chain. Like you said, it's a tower falling prayer. It is.
Yeah.
But it also depends on how close in alignment you are. I will say that.
Yeah.
If you are close in alignment to what you are getting, it can be done. Let me piggyback on that one to say, also I've started to ask that those things happen with grace and ease.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yes.
Because of that.
Hello.
Lavender and like chamomile and like all of that. Yeah, I use lavender and all that. 2020 was that for me. It started with the poke medicine meditation. I was like, poke, show me your medicine. And a 7-day spiritual white bath. And my whole life was leveled. I'm like, through my COVID divorce, I ended up without a home, having to leave my garden, everything I knew in the middle of a pandemic. And I was like, all right, girl, let's fire off and do it. And that's why, like, the ceremonies and the self-healing is so important. I look back at my Facebook memories from a year ago when I was completely broken.
Yeah.
I had zero money and completely broken. And I look at myself now and I'm like, damn, I did that damn thing. I was only at half power was it. And like, I was like, I live in New Orleans, you know, I don't know how long. I'm following spirit. I'm able to be in that alignment. So yes, there are stages to this evolution and knowing the ebb and flows, but I'm also a big person who loves to love this physical experience.
Yeah.
Like, really dive in it. I mean, y'all are down here. Like, I'm all about the decadence and like, let's call the driver.
Yes. When we got it, yo. When we
Love
got
that.
it, we got it. That's definitely, and I'm going to definitely swim in it and enjoy it when I got the yumminess. But yeah, also like Lucretia, I got like when you were talking about like when you were in that phase of like having everything torn away, because we all have those. We all have those rock bottom times, especially as practitioners, because of what we talked about. Sometimes things are going to get really taky and wipe the slate clean, so that you can fill up with things that are really going to, you know, help support you and your whoever you are, you know, sharing your stories.
Especially when you don't listen. Like, you don't listen. Like, I would love to say I didn't have, you know, you pray for the sign and you get like the burning bush in the Bible and you're like, oh, that's not it. And then you pray for it again, there's another burning bush. And you're like, oh, well, maybe that's not it. So, like, my ancestors are like, all right, like, I've hit rock bottom several times and have bounced back in a different, more powerful way than before. And, like, that's why I'm like, my journey looks like it's easy because people say I make it look easy, but I tell people from a vulnerable state, this shit is not easy. Yeah. I was like, I got my ass up and went to the river every morning to pray and cry.
Yes.
I got my ass up.
Oh,
yeah.
That's the part, like, I think people need to talk about, and like we need to also hold space for one another in that, and understanding that we are still also going through these experiences and this journey as we've been talking about. So yes, we can still practice and still hold space for you and still go through our shit. And the reason why we can is because we are going to honor that part of our journey more than anything. We're going to show the grace. We're going to show the tears. We're going to show the ceremony. That is also part of this. And it doesn't, like I talked about last week, it's not going to look like, sometimes you're not going to have money for sage and crystals, honey. Sometimes you ain't going to have money for that. Sometimes you just going to have to make shit up. I've been in that part of my life where I had to go around and forage for my herbs.
Get you some pine tree.
Yes.
I know, but I'm at this really juicy point in my life where, like, spirit's like, you have to let it all go. I had to let all of it go. I had to let the dream of, you know, this ride or die whatever that means, partner. I had to let go of a whole life that I actually, when I realized I settled for. I settled. I was like, this is okay. So I can, and I was like, I know I wasn't born to live in okay. I wasn't living my purpose. And now all of that pain, all of that shit that I went through, it was worth every bit of it to stand where I stand now. Because I'm free. I'm free. I'm at a freer level in myself. I'm rooted down so deep in my ancestors because so many times they were the only ones that had me through here, except my sisters that I could call. And it was crazy. Like, you know people for so long and people think you have 100 million friends, but you really just have a squad of like 5. I was like, I got 5 deep ass
Squad.
ass that, you know, you get them on. I was like, I get my 5 or 6 girls on a prayer line. This shit is dope. Like, I have like 5. You need 5 good ones that you can put on a prayer hotline when your shit is falling apart, and they just pick you up. They're like, sis, you done the spiritual bath, you done the prayer. Let's evaluate your emotions. Let's scale this down. And that's when like this jambalaya melting pot of healers and people who hold you accountable are so important, because how beautiful our medicines are weaves together somewhere. So even though that clinical stuff that you have is so important, Joy, because it's, you know, spirituality can get you messed up too. Go meditate this away. Like, I love the ability that you have in a situation to quickly assess which level you need to go.
Exactly.
Like,
that's what it is. It's assessment. It's like, what am I working with? When someone comes in, is this, I was reading this really lovely gentle parenting blog because my Chiron is like, and so I was reading this stuff and really, actually, I wanted to absorb this stuff because it was very intimate and personal for me. And it was saying that, you know, like when you're talking to an actual physical child, if they're crying, to ask them, are you physically hurt, or are your feelings hurt, you know? Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I can tell my inner child those same things, you know, like what's going on right here, right now. It's all an assessment. And so like being in clinic, especially because of a Chinese medical lens, which is not Western. That's the whole beauty of it, is like, it's not white Western shit. This is mind, body, spirit, living holistically, like we've been talking about. All things come into one, you know, amalgamation of you. And yeah, where can I either refer out and like, you need to go get an x-ray or an assessment, or can we talk about this and can I refer you to a therapist, or is it an energetic level where I actually am and claim high priestess, and you know, like what can we do for these kinds of energetic ties and tethers, or something of that nature, you know, like what can we do working together co-creatively? What can we do?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that is, I want to dive into like that homework for you all, for everybody listening, is to gather the names of who your advisors are, you know, of who you think they are right now, because that might change, that might shift, that might change. Write down those names of those people that, you know, that you have been calling on, and maybe even those people that you're looking towards to really want to align with, so that you can have better accountability. And really start to gather in that kind of support, because especially as we are continuing to go through these retrogrades for the rest of the year, and depending on where your Saturn cycle is and your different cycles are in your chart, this could be a continuous thing I know for me, this is gonna go on for like another year and a half. So I am definitely calling on my sisters, my own therapists, like my own supports that I have, so that I can keep going, be here, hold space, and also, you know, do what I need to do for myself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And be real about it. Like, that's something I think we'll get into like more next week. I really want to talk about like this reality versus fantasy. Breaking down the reality of this work, whether in our own work and in our work as practitioners, and this fantasy. Because Joy, you really touched on that a lot around when we were talking about being up in the ethers with things and having to ground ourselves. It's good to be high and to be, you know, levitating with everything, but it comes at a limit, its own limitations, because you are going to need to ground down and really get real with yourself about where you are in relationship to where you want to be. You know, you can say all the pretty affirmations and do all the things or whatever, but if you're not really being real about yourself, about doing that work to get into that position, you just gonna keep saying the things. And
Yeah, Earth School will humble you. Like
Yeah,
Earth School will
It
definitely
will.
humble you
It
into the
will.
ground. Like allow yourself to be planted.
allow yourself to be planted.
Exactly.
Love it, love it, love it. Y'all got some last minute tea for everyone?
Mm.
I figured out a personal affirmation for myself when we were talking about this. So it's I'm lovingly accepting gentle, awe-inspired transformations of my own inner expansions towards my own personal freedoms. So that is like something that I'm gonna continue to journal after we get off of here. Like, I gotta think about this. Like, yes,
Yeah.
just
No,
being
I like that one.
open to this.
What about you, Lucretia?
I don't know. I think it's gifting yourself the understanding that healing doesn't have to be hard. Like, give yourself that permission that it doesn't have to be hard. And like constantly, it doesn't have to be hard. Healing doesn't have to be hard. And it's the understanding of how powerful we are as individuals. Like, we've survived 300, every day of our life so far. So it's really
We did
understanding, like,
it.
yeah, I was like, we did it, celebrate it. I'm gonna go get a cocktail in a little bit.
Yeah.
And understanding your power and understanding, when we do step into these rooms that we're not so comfortable in and that are in ourselves, that we have the power to open up and really nurture and love ourselves forward.
Yes. Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, and again, you all go ahead and gather those supports, think on it, pray on it, meditate on it, and gather those. Even like your ancestors. I always talk to my peoples about that. Who are you on your spirit team? Who are on your team? Your spirit team on this realm as well. So yeah, go gather that. Love, love. Thank you for both for being here. Always holding it down for me. Love, love. We'll have to check in with Erica, see what's going on with her. Also, thank you for everybody join. Candace, TC, I see you on here.
Yeah, peace.
Yes, Renee, go ahead. Love,
Thank you,
love.
everybody.
Y'all make sure y'all join us next Tuesday, same time for the Tuesday Tea and Bourbon. If you missed any episodes and you would like to catch up, I have a whole bunch in my YouTube channel. Go ahead and follow all of us. But go ahead and subscribe to the link in the bio. Love, love, peace, love.
Bye, everybody.